Hi everyone, welcome back to TED Talk. I'm your host today, Riley Thurston, and today we will be talking about one of the greatest stories in NCAA men's basketball history. The story is on the 2018 and 2019 UVA men's basketball team. The story starts back in 2018 when UVA was having the best seasons of their whole entire program history. They finished off with a record of 31-3 and a number 1 overall seed going into the tournament. Their first game was against number 16 seed UMBC, where UVA was expected to just blow them over and it'd be no problem and they would be expecting a national championship. However, people started it out that when UVA was tied with UMBC at halftime. However, as the game started to go on, UVA found themselves in a hole. And with just 10 minutes left, they were down 10 points. UVA would go on to lose that game by 20 points. And for the first time ever, a number 1 seed has lost to a 16 seed. This is still talked about to this day. Anytime UVA has a game winner or a time they lost, it's always brought up. So this left the team very down, and especially senior forward Isaiah Wilkins, who was an All-ACC Defensive Player and even earned an ACC championship in his time at UVA. Wilkins would be drafted by the Rockets later that year, but that left the rest of the team in their sorrows. Head coach Tony Bennett took the boys whitewater rafting, where they learned that the new season was right around the corner, and it was. Fast forward to March that next year, and UVA found themselves in the exact same position as last year. They finished with a record of 30-3 and the number 1 overall seed going into the tournament again. Their first game was against Gardner-Webb, and believe it or not, UVA was down 6 at halftime. This left all UVA fans thinking, there's no way this is a repeat of last year, and there was no way they were going to do it. But UVA got it together, and they ended up on winning with a final score of 71-56. Second round of the tournament, UVA was playing Oklahoma. Although it was a very close game, they cleanly won with a final score of 63-51. In the Sweet 16 game against Oregon, it was a very close game, but once again, they swept away with a clean win of 53-49. In the Elite Eight, UVA was playing Purdue, where at halftime, it was a 1-point game. Purdue was up 30-29. In the second half, everyone thought UVA had everything under control and they would win the game. However, that wasn't true because Carson Edwards had a record-tying 42 points in one game. It was like UVA would score and then Carson Edwards would hit a 3. UVA would score, Carson Edwards would hit a 3. It was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in my whole life. If it wasn't for Kyle Guy, who stepped up with 19 points in the second half, UVA might not have pulled this off. With 15 seconds left in the game, UVA is down 3, and junior guard Kyle Guy is bringing the ball up the court. He is fouled, and the first one is good, but the second one is short. Everyone is thinking UVA just lost. Mohamady Diakite goes up for the rebound and tips the ball past half court. Seconds are winding off the clock. Everyone's thinking UVA has lost it. That is until freshman guard Kihei Clark finds the ball in his hands. UVA has no timeouts left. You would think he would just shoot the ball from half court, but somehow he finds Mohamady Diakite on the right block, and with 0.6 seconds left, Mohamady puts the ball up and it goes in. UVA has now tied the game. Purdue cannot hit the final shot, so we're going to overtime. UVA and Purdue could not come back from that in overtime, and they won. And UVA won with a final score of 80-75. Now, for the Final Four game against Auburn, the halftime score was 31-28 Auburn, and UVA was up 11 with 5 minutes left. Everyone's thinking that's it. UVA is going on to the national championship. That is until UVA went scoreless for 2.5 minutes, and we now have a tie game. With 7 seconds left, Ty Jerome was bringing the ball up the court. And this is now one of the most controversial calls still to this day on what it should have been called. Ty Jerome is bringing the ball up the court, and as he goes behind his back, the ball bounces off the back of his foot. The refs don't call a dribble, but they call a foul instead. People still debate about it to this day, but this happens. It went in UVA's favor. 1.5 seconds left in the game. Ty Jerome is inbounding the ball. Kyle Guy is coming off of a screen where he finds himself in his sweet spot, and the shot goes up, and it's off right. Everyone thinks UVA has lost, except for 3 people in the gym: Kyle Guy, 1 Auburn player, and the ref. With 0.5 seconds left in the game, Kyle Guy is on the free throw line down 2 points, and he makes all 3. And just like that, UVA is going on to the national championship. Final game versus Texas Tech. What was supposed to be the slowest and boringest game in March Madness history. And it was. The first half was the slowest game I've ever seen. It was back and forth, very competitive the whole entire game. It ended up on going into overtime, and UVA found their groove, and they ended up on defeating Texas Tech with a final score of 88-77. From the most unforgettable loss to the most unbelievable win, the UVA Cavaliers are now national championship winners. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned something, and go Cavs!